Thanks again for having me on. A little bit about myself. I'm here in St. Louis, so in the Midwest. Currently, father one, we were just talking about before we hopped on here. We got number two on the way, so about to have two under two. I've had one company I always like to highlight, one company that failed and did not work out. I just exited my marketing agency last month, and then now I run TalentFuze. And so a little bit about TalentFuze. Our goal is to help primarily marketing agencies grow with reliable offshore talent and support. And so what that looks like, depending on the size of the agencies, a lot of our clients are either one, B marketing, where you have a large US based team. And as we're seeing the industry change with the rise of AI and costs going down and everything like that, is sometimes it's difficult as agency owners to then go out and hire that next person making between 60 to 120 grand a year, depending on the role and where they're at within the agency. And so we help these agencies place the exact same type of offshore talent to really provide support for their US based teams. So their US based team members can really dive deeper into and develop more deeper relationships with their clients. And then for some of our other clients, these are agency owners who have never hired before and aren't in a position yet to be able to hire somebody here in the US. And so this allows them to grow without being actually in the weeds of their agency. So as the agency owner, they can pour back into their clients and then hopefully get to a point where they can also hire people here in the US as well.
A huge fan of TalentFuze ourselves, and we use you and we appreciate the opportunity. And it's definitely helped us tremendously in 2025, and going into 2026, it's going to be awesome. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just jumping off script here, I'm a huge entrepreneur. I have a couple businesses myself. Huge commends to everything you're doing, but just the power and will of starting your own business and growing it is super, super cool. What's your favorite quote out there?
Yeah, it's not really a quote, but I have it on the wall. It's by Theodore Roosevelt, and it's actually to be the man in the arena. And like, I love that aspect. And actually, I volunteer with a program, Missouri Boys State, which actually, when you and I had our call, I was on campus volunteering for that. And that's like the motto of our program. That's where I really learned about it. And for me, it's like, how can we constantly be always fighting to be our best and not worrying about what other people are saying about what we're doing and everything. But I think what's important there too is not just being the man in the arena, but in my case and in your case, Brandon, and those who have a spouse at home, is not only do you have to be the man in the arena in the workplace and as an entrepreneur, but also in home life as well. But in order to be the man in the arena, you have to have a special somebody behind the scenes, who I often refer my wife as like the forgotten co-founder. And it's because like, I can't do what I'm doing without her. Or I mentioned before we hopped on the call, like we're planning on bringing her home from work. And it's like, we're doing that so I can be even more of a man in the arena and make more impact and do exactly what we're doing. There's a couple earthquakes that just hit the Philippines as an example. And that's where we have a lot of our team at. And that's where a lot of our clients hire people from. And it's like, for me right now with where we're at, I can't do much in terms of providing impact and everything to the people who are affected by that. But that's something I see that. And I'm like, how can I be more of a man in the arena in 2026? So that way, if this happens again, or they have tsunamis all the time, like how can I provide support for those in need over there as well?
Yeah, dude, that totally hits home for me. Like we were talking about before, I have 4 kids at home, and I'm a passionate worker. Like I bust my butt every day. I have a couple different companies. I couldn't do it without my wife at home. There's no way. We have 4 kids playing 6 sports right now. Every night you go here, I got to take this call. Who's doing homework with the kids? Like, it's impossible without her.
It's one of those things, like you have people who will never get that. And I have, as an example, like we're blessed with great health insurance with her right now. Because my team's not US based, I don't have US, like I can't get a group plan right now for health insurance. So 2026, we have to go on marketplace insurance. And so everybody who is like not in the entrepreneur world is, I would not bring her home from work. I wouldn't do that. It's not a great idea, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, we as entrepreneurs know, like in order for us to get deeper into that, that's the next thing for us to do. I even think of like the aspect of, yeah, is insurance going to cost us more, but how much money am I going to save by my wife being home and these different types of things being done? Or how much more business can I drive, which is more impact? How much can I drive into our organization by her being at home? And I mentioned like right now, she's home taking care of our kid while I'm doing this podcast. And like, that's awesome. How much more could I do that down the road?
And we see it in the home service space too. Like all these entrepreneurs in the home service space, they're running their businesses, they're dealing with different staffing. They're trying to be the man or woman in that arena, but they also have that whole home life and personal life that they just bring it home and they live with it 24/7. It's definitely a lot of weight on people's shoulders for sure.
Absolutely.
All right, let's jump into it, right? We always
Yeah.
start off with the $1,000,000 question. So my $1,000,000 question for you here at the beLine right off the bat is, where do you see the future of global staffing going in the next 3 to 5 years? And how will that change how kind of agencies
Yeah.
grow and operate?
Yeah, I think I touched that a little bit in my intro here. I think we're going to shift from for some of these agencies, like having international talent has been like a nice to have versus I think it's become more of like a traditional aspect of how agencies grow. I'm a part of a big mastermind and like people in there like years ago would have said, never would I hire offshore, but now they're like, I love this. Like, why haven't I done this sooner? And yes, it's got its hidden costs, right? You're not going to have somebody here in the US and there's cultural differences and everything like that. So you have to train up on that aspect. But as like the labor costs get higher here in the US, our margins as agency owners are getting tighter. You have AI coming in place. And so now like people can write copy for a website for their own website as a home service business owner from their phone. But it's not going to be to the level that like we can do in an agency and how we think of the way that the consumers think and all that stuff. And so I think, yes, offshoring talent is going to be important, but really what's going to make or break a difference in a lot of these agencies is how can you combine offshore talent plus the leverage of AI to really enhance the speed and efficiency of what you're doing. And then how can you also bring in like US based teams so that way you can really give that like above and beyond white glove support for your clients because now you don't have somebody who's focusing on like working with the clients and doing deliverables that you're paying X amount of dollars per hour here in the US, you can then reinvest those funds into working with your clients. So I think a lot of agencies are going to begin to see that shift. And it's not going to be like, oh, how can we just have them work our time zone, which is what a lot of our clients do. But it's, oh, we could have them overlap our time zone as well. So before our team gets on in the day, our team members already working for a few hours by themselves, or you mentioned you have your kids like soccer practices and everything like that. Like, how cool would it be if while Brandon's at a soccer practice, that he's got an EA, let's say in the Philippines, who's like his after hour support, responding to client inquiries, updating project boards, whatever that may be. And so that's where I think we're really going to see a huge change at.
Yeah, that makes sense. And like for me, like I totally agree. Like is it 50% US and 50% support off seas, or what does that look
Mhm.
like from that dynamic team ability to not lose the humanization with the clients, which is so important in relationships. But to your point, how do we build speed, time, and quality into what we're
Yeah.
doing to make that secret sauce for delivering for clients, like you said?
Yeah, and I think, like, the percentage is going to vary and everything per agency. Like, the guy that I sold my agency to, he's got a team of 25, 26 in Nicaragua, and, like, I doubt he'll ever hire somebody here in the US, and it's just because 'cause he's been able to find phenomenal talent and does a really good job at teaching about our US culture and, like, his clients and everything like that. They use AI for bots, that way if their team members have questions of what's the cultural differences here, they can ask this AI bot, and it tells them. And so I think depending on the agency and their risk for it and willingness to evolve is going to slide that of whether it's like 50-50, sixty
Uh,
forty in that case. Like in my case, I mentioned like marketplace insurance. We're going to have to look for me, my wife, and everything for next year. Given my son's health conditions, I'm probably in my best interest in the next year or two to bring on two US based people that I can provide health insurance for just so for my family, I can get better insurance rates. And so, like, for me, it might be 80% offshore, 20% here in the US because I have other needs that I need for that in that case.
and that makes sense, right? Like, how does it work within
Yeah.
your individual personal thing? And for entrepreneurs across all industry verticals, it's the same thing. Like, how's this going to work for us? What does that look like? I was in this conference the other day, and as I was saying, and Matt Britton was a huge speaker there, and he owned the agency Mr. Youth before he sold it, and
Okay. Yeah.
now he's a big AI guy. And for him, it's really like a lot of these tech jobs have nosedived. A lot of these
Mhm.
customer service jobs are starting to nosedive. So it's how do you become more efficient, and how does AI change that role for sure?
Yeah.
All right, next segment we talk about our 3, 2, 1 at the beeline.
Yeah.
3 questions, rapid fired at you. Here we go. Can you give us 3 non-negotiable systems agency owners needs in place before hiring the first offshore person? So what does an agency owner have to do before they do hire someone offshore?
Yeah, I think one, the biggest thing is you get to figure out your needs. And that's something I love doing is hopping on with agency owners and like really figuring out what exactly their needs are. I have people who oftentimes come to me and they're like, I need this person. I need a account manager. And that's really what you need. You need this person instead. So I think really trying to figure out exactly what you need there. You can use, again, AI, ChatGPT, and just give it all of your problems, and it will help you figure out like what role it is you need to hire. And I think from there is then you need a solid, I wouldn't say onboarding process, but SOPs in place. Like I always recommend people hire like an executive admin first, because they can be your like jack of all trades and really be your like left or right side of your brain to learn everything about brand, everything about Brandon, and then begin to document it. Everything's out. Those people, the admin people, love SOPs. I hate SOPs. Don't ever ask me to write one because it's not going to get done correctly. And so
I'm in this track. I do EOS, and we try to run on EOS, and I'm that visionary. So I totally agree with you. I have the idea, but please don't ask me how to do it.
exactly. It's like, how can you get somebody in place who can do those SOPs? And then from there, you can then use that EA to help you build out like an onboarding system if you don't already have it, if you're not a company the size that like the marketing is. And it's like, how can you have in a solid like project management system and then SOPs? Because if they don't have a solid process to follow, that's one culture difference between here and the US is sometimes you can't get as deep of critical thinkers. And that's part of the culture is that like in the Philippines, like you take tasks. And we try to break through that noise and find people who are critical thinkers, but you sometimes need those SOPs in place of here's our process to go. And like in our case, I hired my EA 4 months ago, a month and a half into us launching TalentFuze, and I had my agency at the time, and I lost her within a month to our talent acquisition team because we were growing so fast. And so every time, like I'm looking for an EA right now, we have 3 clients that are looking for EAs. I'm like, I guess Brad's just not going to get an EA right now because we just keep helping our clients with it.
Yep.
But it's like we can, on the talent acquisition side of things, we have things so documented out that we could hire somebody on and have them onboarded within a week. And so that's where a lot of agencies need to be at is how can you have SOPs in place and then the right project management tools in place so people are assigned the proper task and all that stuff.
That's great. No, that's really awesome. All right. 2, drawing from your own experience, what are 2 practical ways that you've used a perceived weakness to become a better, more efficient leader?
Yeah. So one of the things that many people don't know about me and is depending on the day, hard to tell is I actually have a stutter. And so like for me, I had that as a setback for the longest time. I wouldn't get out and do a podcast or go talk at a chamber event or wherever that may be, because I was always afraid that I would get anxious and like I would trip over my words. Like people would think that this guy doesn't know what the hell he's talking about, like all those different things. And I one day just realized that's actually like my podcast became a project for me. It was like, how can I overcome this? So I launched a podcast to force me to get on more things, to talk more, and that kind of helped quote cure it in a way. And so for me, like that's a weakness that I see a lot of people say, I can't go do a sales job because of this disfluency I have or this disability I have. It's like you can. Like, and most people don't care. People I talk to don't care. And in fact, oftentimes when I have bad days, I make fun of it and it actually helps get through the conversation. And I've actually closed a few deals and I think people have felt bad for me because of it. And I'm like, okay, like this is cool. Like, we'll use it to my advantage. But that's one thing.
Superpower.
Yeah. It's so that's one aspect. The other thing is my first company I had, we raised 6 figures in investments from friends and family. And it didn't work out after 18 months. My 2 co-founders were my best friends at the time, lost both of those relationships, one of them of which I've been able to rekindle. But it's like I went through probably 6 months after that closed is when I opened up my agency. In the first year and a half of my agency, I had a hard time actually promoting myself and being like this entrepreneur into this new thing because I was so afraid of that past and that weakness of what if this fails again? What if Brad disappoints these people again? It wasn't until probably the 6 to 12 months ago, like Christmas last year, where I could go to Christmas and not think of the number that this family member invested in my company, that I lost that money, that I knew they cashed out some of their 401k or whatever that was for. And so for me, for a while, it set me back because I didn't allow that to propel me forward. And now I'm like, most people want to bet on the jockey, not the horse. And so when you look at it now, it's like I talk with a lot of people, they're like, I want to work with Brad because he's not only seen success in a way with his agency exit now, but he's also seen failure. And so as I'm going through hard times with my agency, like guess who also knows what hard times are like and has basically had to tell 60 something people who invested in his company, like, hey, thank you for investing in our company, but this didn't work out.
Sure.
And so those are my two things I would mention there.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think that there are those ups and downs. And like one thing for me, it's like you win clients, it's the highest in the world, right? You lose a
Yep.
client or something happens with a client, it's the lowest of lows. And
Yeah.
so many times that you bring that home, it just bleeds over in the personal. So
Yep.
one thing I've been trying to do a lot more this year is don't let the day win. And how do you avoid the day winning? Because there are those ups and downs in entrepreneurship and there's a lot that goes on every single day. What is one piece of advice that you wish you received sooner as an awesome entrepreneur like you are?
I every time I ask this question, I toy with different things. I want to say just like on theme with our company is delegate sooner. If I wish I would have learned to hand things off quicker to other people because I would have grown faster, I think, with my agency. That's one thing I did differently to TalentFuze. Like when I launched TalentFuze, I was paying myself out of the agency, and my wife and I had an agreement that every single dollar up into a certain monthly recurring revenue mark was going back into hiring more team members. Now we're in a position, we're in this race to bring on a couple more clients between now and the end of the year. So that way I can afford to bring my wife home from work. And it's like, I have the core team in place and we have the core process in place. I don't have to worry about, oh, I can't go hire this person because I need this money for me kind of thing. We have enough wiggle room there now with the team that I have in place. And it's like, okay, let's put them in place and let's delegate more. But then it's also once you get your team in place, how can you make their jobs easier? And is it AI? Is it do we need to hire somebody else on board? And so a lot of the conversations I'm having with my team right now is, hey, how can we do this faster? And how can we leverage software and AI to do this faster? Not because I don't want to hire somebody else on. I love hiring people, but how can we make your job easier so that way when it comes time to hire somebody else on, you guys can process 20 more interviews in a week or whatever that may be. And so delegation sooner is that one piece of advice.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, and again, I agree because there's an agency, even so, B Marketing's 15 years old, right? I still wear 5 hats at the agency, and it's like, wait, and it's not that I don't enjoy it because it's what I've known, liked, and I've been accustomed to over the years. But it's wait, why am I wearing this one hat? Why are we
Yeah.
doing this? Like
Yep.
I'm still the janitor, I'm still the payroll,
Yep.
I'm still the account manager, I'm still the
Yep.
visionary. So I get it. Like delegation is extremely big, and you hear it from like the big ones across the world: Darren Hardy, Tony Robbins, Grant Cardone. You have to delegate. There's sometimes you have to say
Yep.
no. So it definitely gets home from an entrepreneurship and
Yeah.
just tying it over to home services as well. Like right from the home service marketplace, doing marketing with them, they have to be able to say no as well too, right?
Yeah.
They wear a lot of hats. They're doing a lot for their business. That if they're not delegating the right way, they're going to be that plumber, business owner, HR person, admin as well.
Mm-hmm. And you have to be careful. A lot of people think, and this is where I was, you think you have to delegate all of it at once. And it's like, how can you just do little pieces here and there? And like, even in your home life too, it's like we live on a half-acre property.
Yep.
And I have a push mower. I was push mowing our half-acre property. It was taking me 2 hours. And I was like ending up in the middle of the summer on the floor because like I was heat exhausted and everything. And it's 2 hours to mow my lawn once a week. I wasn't finding time to go to the gym. So there's 2 hours right there. And or I could pay lawn care companies $70 a week. They're in and out in 25, 30 minutes. Let me just try this. So I did that. And ironically, I'm on like 2 weeks after I do it, I'm on a podcast or something like that. And then that guy wound up becoming a client of ours. And I'm like, I made money by being on a podcast because I delegated off something as simple as $70 a week. And so like for a lot of people, it's like, even if you can't afford to do all of it, like at TalentFuze, we place full-time talent, but there's companies like there's one I'm doing like a referral partnership with called Focus WP. And you can hire like a fractional EA for 10 hours a month, 20 hours a month, do just that and delegate little by little. And then you can do the whole thing down the road. Because trust me, there's plenty more around this house that I would love to figure out how to delegate off and pay other people to do. We're just not there at that point yet. And in my mindset at first, I was like, oh, I got to figure out how to delegate all of this. And it's like, no, just do it piece by piece. And then eventually it will all work out.
Yeah. Continue to re-look at what you're doing, right? I did it a dozen times already in that delegate and elevate type stuff. What do I like and I'm good at? What do I love and I'm great at? What do I not like and I'm not good at?
But it's like at the same time, like we're looking at next year, my wife's due with our second in March. And the last thing I want her to be doing while I'm back working, growing TalentFuze is then worrying about like cleaning the house and everything when we have a 14, 16-month-old at that point, and then a newborn. And it's okay if we can't afford at least somebody to come help out with the house once a month. but we can't afford the lawn care company. Maybe if I value having the house cleaned more, I should give up the lawn care company for a little bit in order to be able to afford this. And so sometimes you have to pick and choose based off of the way in life you're in. And so that might be a change we have to make. I would love to hit March, April and be able to have my lawn care company beginning next year and be able to have somebody come provide support for my wife once a month to come get the house clean. That would be fantastic. But if I can't do both, I just have to look at which one do I value more for my time. So,
Yeah, that makes sense. Time management, delegation,
yeah.
that's totally huge. I'm going to say it's the final question, but I'm going to lie. And our friend Pat is going to be mad at me. But one of
Yeah.
the last two final questions.
Yeah.
After experiencing major ups and downs from failed startup venture to selling your agency last before this new, and then starting this successful company you're in now, like there's been 3 of them. Tell me, like, how did you bounce back from falling? I know you've mentioned it a little bit for our podcast. That would be part 1. And then what goes through your mind on these ups and downs? I think it's going to help everyone listening to the beLine because they are entrepreneurs. They are listening in.
Yeah. At first, it was difficult to figure out how to deal with it. I think now it's even easier. And I'm not going to sit here and say, go be a Christian, but find some sort of religion and be part of some sort of church or whatever that means. And develop a relationship with whoever that higher power is, whoever you choose that higher power to be. Because for me, when my wife got laid off in June of 2023, I had just opened up my agency in April and we were dependent on her income. We were getting married in September. And so we went from we closed down this business, had $25,000 in credit card debt, moved in with my parents and everything, to then paying off all that debt from a job I was working, open up the agency. She loses her job. We're trying to keep her roof over her head of the house we just bought in January, trying to get married, all that stuff. And during that process, she and I find the church and just randomly decide to go to the church. And through every up and down since then, my son's been in the hospital 4 times this year. Every single time we find ourselves grounded in faith. And it's I now look back in reflection. The guy that I sold my agency to, I met in 2021 when I was running my first company that failed. And it's that person was planted in my life then to then get us to this point. You and I got connected because you saw on my Facebook that I was at a baseball game. You thought it was a Phillies game, but it was actually a Cardinals game.
I can't talk about the Phillies today.
But it's had I not posted that, right? How would you and I have ever got connected or really began to have conversations? And so I just look back at all those little pieces. And one of the things that happened earlier this year was I was looking at my agency had some debt on it that we accrued from whenever my wife got laid off. And I was sitting there and I'm there's no way I'm gonna be able to launch this second company and be able to have this agency and figure out how to pay off all this debt. And then I have in my gut to get rid of my truck and I hear, get rid of your truck and I'll open the doors for you. So I go and we post my truck on Facebook and within 24 hours it's gone. And within 2 weeks is when I get the offer for my acquisition. And that acquisition's paying off all that debt. And I finally said to myself, if he did it for me once before, he'll do it for me again. And that's when things began to then take that domino effect from there. And so that's one thing that I would say, for those who are going through those ups and downs, ground yourself in something, some sort of higher power, whatever that may be. And when you do that, you also begin to realize that your definition of success is different. I went to go out and I was always looking at how could I make more money for me so I could go buy new toys and go buy a different truck.
Sure.
My joke is I've had more cars than I have had girlfriends in my life because I always loved buying a new car and everything. And it's now I'm driving my wife's old car and we got her a different car because it's a growing family and I don't care what I drive. I work from home most of the time. And now it's I look at what we've given to the church so far this year or given to this organization so far. And I'm how can I make more money so I can give more? And so when you begin to ground yourself in some sort of organization like that and surrender to a higher power, it then makes you more grateful for the life you live. And it gets a lot of greed out of your life as well.
That's awesome. Yeah, no, that makes sense. I always live by the 6 F's, right?
Yep.
And faith is one of those F's. So it's extremely important. And I agree with you there.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. All right. My last question off script. What are 1 or 2 AI tools you're using today?
So one of the things we use on a daily basis is OpenAI, ChatGPT. Everything's built on that with our entire recruiting system and all that stuff. But I'm going to not give you an AI tool and say Make.com or Zapier are great tools to connect AI. And when I say that is when I do sales calls, I have a AI note taker that's on that sales call. As soon as that call's done, we have a Zapier connection that then takes that transcript, uploads it to that client's profile, and High Level is the platform we use, and adds it as a note with exactly what we talked about. So that way, then when we do an onboarding call, my team can go in and see exactly what's going on there. And then we're now trying to get some automation set up where if I hop on a sales call or a podcast, wherever that may be, that same note taker's on there. And then it automatically goes through some bots we have in ChatGPT to create some like long form post of here's the client that we talked to, here's the problem we solved, here's how we solved it. And so then we can leverage automations that then my social media manager no longer has to create all the content. She just has to go in and look at it and make her tweaks because we have it fine-tuned with AI and then get it posted out there. And so I think people using AI tools is, yes, that's going to really level you up in your agency or business, wherever that may be, but it's how you can connect those AI tools, I think, is really what's going to take people to the next level from there.
Yeah, no, I agree. And something I saw this week, as I was telling you, was I think 90% of people have used AI tools, 10% have used AI automation, and
Yep.
less than 5% have used agents. So it's
Yeah.
interesting. So yeah,
Yeah. The AI agents, it's something we don't use, and I'm trying to get us to the point of being able to use it. I would love an entire like company wiki knowledge base that you just type into this AI agent and it tells you exactly how to do it. So
it does it for you almost. And it's
yeah,
funny that Matt Britton guy that I talked to this week, he said people ask him if they'll go to lunch with him. And he says that hour I can spend building a bot or building an agent is more important than having lunch because it's going to do so much more work for me. So it's
right.
interesting. Yeah. I appreciate having you on the beLine.
Yeah.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you
for
for having me.
us. Tremendous insights like delegate, faith, all that stuff is extremely important. And you're running a successful TalentFuze agency. So any agency owners out there, definitely reach out to Brad. He's awesome. And
Thank
yeah,
you.
thanks again.
Yeah. Thank
Keep
you.
doing great stuff.